The moment Commander Kael Ardent dropped to his knees and called me his guide, I realized the man I was supposed to destroy had somehow become the only person keeping me alive. Before we begin, please subscribe, like the video, and tell me in the comments what you would do if the most dangerous men in the galaxy suddenly refused to let you go. Part 1. I woke with blood on my hands and 3 guns aimed at my heart. The medical chamber was painfully bright and deathly cold. Beyond glass walls floated the planet Rhys. I also knew the body I had awakened in. Elian Voss, 26 years old. An S-class guide who could calm almost any Sentinel. In the novel I had finished before my death, he invaded mines and forced Sentinels to obey him. His reward was an execution in Chapter 12. The scene before me happened in Chapter 11. That meant I had less than 1 day to live. On the floor lay Rhys, a 29-year-old combat sentinel. Blood soaked his uniform, and black veins spread up his neck. A resonance storm was destroying his nervous system. The original Elian had refused to guide him. He had demanded that Commander Ardent beg first. Commander Kael Ardent stood between us. At 31, his gray eyes held no mercy. "Guide him," Kael said. I swallowed. "I will. Lower the guns. A frightened guide cannot form a stable link." Kael lifted 2 fingers. The guards lowered their weapons but kept their hands on the triggers. I knelt beside Rhys. Foreign memories showed me how to open the gate inside my mind. Elian's power had been trained to dominate. I refused to use it that way. "Rhys, can you hear me?" His eyes opened. They were burning gold. "Do not touch me," he growled. "I would rather die. You can hate me tomorrow. Tonight you breathe." I touched his heart and temple. The link struck like a collapsing star. I saw a ruined colony, fallen soldiers, and a black wolf made from rage and grief. The beast charged. Elian's instincts urged me to chain it. Instead I lowered my defenses. I did not command the wolf. I sat before it. "You have carried everyone long enough," I whispered. "Let me carry you for 1 minute." The wolf stopped. In the chamber Rhys went still. The black veins faded and his breathing deepened. Then his hand closed around my wrist. "Who are you?" he asked. The question froze me. Before I could answer, an alarm shook the station. Red lights replaced the white glare. "Breach in Containment 7, a mechanical voice announced. "Sentinel resonance failure detected." Kael turned toward the door. For the first time, fear crossed his face. Miro Sable was 28 and the Federation's deadliest tracker. In the novel, he escaped during Rhys's collapse and killed 14 officers before Kael stopped him. The first scream sounded in the corridor. Kael drew his weapon. "Seal Voss inside." He ran out. If the story held, I would be executed at dawn. But this was no longer a page I could turn. I slipped through the narrowing door. The corridor lights flickered over fallen officers. At the far end stood Miro. A restraint collar sparked around his throat while Kael faced him alone. "Stay back," Kael warned me. Miro lifted his head. His blue eyes found mine and his expression twisted with hatred. "You," he said. Elian had performed the experiment that shattered Miro's control. He had invaded Miro's mind repeatedly for military secrets. Miro moved faster than sight. Kael intercepted him. The impact buckled the wall and Miro seized his throat. I could have run. Elian would have run. Instead I opened my mental gate. "Miro." My voice carried through the resonance field. He turned toward me and the corridor vanished. I fell into a frozen forest inside his mind. At its center, Miro was bound in chains that carried Elian's voice. "Obey me. Break for me. Kill for me." I reached for the nearest chain and pain tore through my palm. "I am sorry," I said. The chain man stared at me. "You do not get to say that." "I know." I broke the chain anyway. I tore Elian's commands from Miro's mind. The wounds passed into me. Blood ran from my nose, but I kept pulling until the final chain snapped. Miro released Kael and collapsed against me. Then Kael rose. His throat was bruised and his expression unreadable. He looked from Miro in my arms to the blood on my face. Elian Voss would never risk himself for a sentinel, he said. Rhys appeared behind him, leaning against the wall. I asked him who he was. The alarm stopped. Miro opened his eyes against my shoulder. His fingers tightened in my shirt, as if he already knew I might disappear. Kael stepped closer. I expected restraints. I expected an accusation. Instead, the strongest commander in the Federation lowered himself onto one knee before me. "Whatever happened to you?" he said quietly. "Do not tell them yet." "Why?" His gaze shifted toward the dark security lens above the corridor. "Because your execution order was signed 6 hours before Rhys lost control. Someone planned tonight. And now that you saved all 3 of us, they will make sure none of us survive until morning." End of Part 1. Part 2. Kael pressed one finger to his lips before I could ask another question. The security lens above us rotated with a quiet click. Someone was watching. Miro leaned against me, gripping my shirt whenever I shifted. Rhys braced himself nearby. Neither sentinel had recovered, yet both positioned themselves between me and the corridor entrances. Kael noticed it too. "The guiding created a temporary imprint," he said. "They will react to any threat against you." "How long will it last?" "A few hours if the link was ordinary." His eyes remained on Miro's hand. "And if it was not?" Kael did not answer. Boots thundered nearby. Captain Orson Pell appeared with a squad of armed officers. In the novel, he testified that Lucian caused the resonance failures. In the original story, I had believed him. Now Kael's warning changed everything. Orson stopped several steps away. "Commander Ardent, stand aside. The Council has ordered Guide Voss transferred to the Judgment Deck." "The station is under emergency containment," Kael said. "No prisoner can be moved." His execution was authorized before containment began. There it was. Confirmation that the order existed before the crisis. Kael seized my wrists. His expression became cold enough to fool me. "Then I will deliver him personally." Rhys growled. Kael leaned close as if fastening restraints. His breath touched my ear. "Trust me for 60 seconds. Lucian's memories warned me against the Federation crest. Yet Kael's hands never tightened enough to hurt. "Release Miro," he ordered. I loosened Miro's fingers, but he caught my sleeve again. "He stays with me," Miro said. His voice was weak but deadly. Every officer stepped back. Kael moved between us. "If you want him alive, follow my command." Miro's gaze challenged him, but he finally released me. Rhys joined his side. Kael marched me toward the squad while the 2 sentinels followed. Orson's jaw tightened. "They are not permitted on the Judgment Deck. Try stopping them." No one did. Kael pushed me into the elevator. Rhys, Miro, Orson, and 4 officers followed. The Judgment Deck was above us. Orson realized it at the same moment I did. "Commander, why are we going down?" Kael struck the emergency control. Darkness swallowed the elevator. A gun fired. Kael pulled me against his chest as the bullet passed my cheek. Metal crashed while Rhys and Miro attacked in the darkness. When the emergency lights returned, Orson's officers were unconscious. Rhys held Orson against the wall by his throat. Miro stood over a broken rifle. Kael still had one arm around my waist. "You can let go," I whispered. "I know." He did not move for another heartbeat. Orson laughed. "That thing wearing Voss's face is more dangerous than the man you hated." My blood turned cold. Kael looked at him. "Explain." "The scanners detected a complete resonance inversion when he guided Calder. Elian Voss could dominate Sentinels, but he could never absorb their pain. This one can." Orson's eyes found mine. "The Council has waited 20 years for a guide like you." Something inside this body had changed with me. The elevator stopped on the abandoned engineering deck. Kael knocked Orson unconscious and opened a hidden passage. We followed it to an unused observation room, shielded from the station network. As soon as the door closed, my legs gave way. Kael caught me before I hit the floor. Pain burned through my chest. The wounds from Miro's mind had gathered beneath my skin like frozen wire. Rhys knelt beside me. "Guide him back." "He is the guide," Miro said. "Then we return what he took." Kael stared at Rhys. "Sentinels cannot guide." "No, but an imprint can carry resonance both ways." Rhys placed my hand over his heart. Warmth surged into my palm. Miro lowered himself on my other side and pressed his forehead against my temple. The cold wires inside me began to loosen. Their emotions came with the warmth. Rhys's fierce gratitude. Miro's fear that I would vanish. Both feelings were so intimate that I tried to pull away. They refused to release me. "You told me I could hate you tomorrow," Rhys murmured. "Tomorrow has not come." "And when it does?" His golden eyes held mine. "I do not think I can hate you anymore." Miro's fingers slid around my wrist, gentler than before. "I remember every chain you broke. Whatever face you wear, you are not the man who put them there." Kael remained silent, but his hands supported my back. The commander who had aimed a weapon at me now held me, as if letting go was impossible. For one dangerous moment, surrounded by the 3 men Lucian had ruined, I felt safe. I wanted that moment to last longer. Then the hidden screen behind us turned on. A recording filled the wall. Elian Voss appeared exhausted and terrified, nothing like the cruel guide from the novel. He stared directly into the camera. "If someone is watching this with my face," he said, "then I am already dead, and they succeeded in bringing you here." I stopped breathing. The recording continued. "Do not trust the story you remember. It was written to make me the villain. And whatever you do not let Commander Kael Ardent discover what he did to us before they erased his memory." Every eye in the room turned toward Kael. End of Part 2. Part 3. Kael stared at his own name on the screen, as if it belonged to a stranger. The recording froze on Lucian's frightened face. Rhys moved closer to me, while Miro positioned himself between Kael and the door. Kael noticed. "If you believe I am dangerous, say it now." Miro's expression remained cold. The dead man believed it. He also believed someone would arrive wearing his face. I had been an ordinary man from another world until a transport struck me. Then I awoke as Elian Voss. My final memory was rain on the road, and a book open beside me. I had never questioned whether those details truly belonged to me until now. But Lucian's message suggested my arrival was not an accident. "I do not know why I am here," I said. "I only know the story called Lucian a monster and Kael a hero. Now neither appears true." Kael faced the screen. "Play the rest." I touched the control. Lucian's image moved again. Project Janus created permanent bonds between guides and sentinels. A guide who absorbed pain could stabilize an entire unit and carry memories between minds. Commander Ardent volunteered to save soldiers. Kael's face lost its color. "The trial failed," Lucian continued. "The bond made Kael feel everything they did to me. He tried to free the subjects, so the council erased his memory and gave him a new one. They made him believe I had tortured the Sentinels. They made everyone believe it. Kael, if you are hearing this, you did not betray us willingly. But they left a command inside your mind. When the council speaks the words Final Dawn, you will kill the new guide with your own hands." Silence filled the observation room. Kael placed his weapon and boot knife on the floor. "Bind me," he said. "No," I answered. "Elian, this is not a request." It was the first time he had called me Elian. My borrowed name suddenly felt real. I stepped toward him. Rhys caught my arm. "You heard the recording." "I also heard that he tried to save them." Kael backed away. "Do not come closer." I kept moving until only a breath separated us. His control looked perfect, but I could feel terror under it. Not fear for himself. Fear that his hands would become weapons against me. "Let me see the command," I said. "Absolutely not. You trusted me for 60 seconds. Return the favor." His jaw tightened. Then he lowered his forehead to mine. The contact opened a path between us. Kael's mind was a fortress built over ruins. Beneath polished military memories, I found a locked chamber. The moment I touched it, the door opened. Kael stood inside a white laboratory with blood across his uniform. The real Lucian lay behind a glass barrier while alarms screamed. "I will get you out," the younger Kael promised. Lucian pressed his hand to the glass. "You always say that. Then I will keep saying it until you believe me." Their palms met through the barrier. The memory changed. Physicians restrained Kael and lowered a silver instrument toward his temple. They showed him Lucian unconscious. "Submit," a woman ordered, "or Guide Voss dies now." Kael stopped fighting. I felt his love in that surrender. It had been young, desperate, and buried so deeply that even he could no longer name it. Then black letters appeared across the chamber wall. "Final Dawn." Kael's hand closed around my throat. We crashed back into the observation room. Rhys and Miro moved, but I raised one hand to stop them. Kael trembled before me. His fingers tightened, then loosened, fighting an order written into his mind. "Get away," he forced out. "No. I will hurt you." "Then let me carry this too." I placed my palm over his heart. The command poured into me like poison. Pain split my vision, but I followed its roots and tore them free. Kael collapsed to his knees, dragging me with him. His arms locked around my waist. For a moment he only breathed against my chest. "I remember him," he whispered. "Lucian trusted me." "I am not Lucian." Kael looked up. The grief in his eyes softened into something that belonged only to us. "I know." His hand rose to my face but stopped before touching me. I closed the distance and leaned into his palm. Rhys cleared his throat behind us. Miro did not bother hiding his displeasure. The tenderness vanished when the station shook. An emergency broadcast appeared on every screen. Counselor Seraphine Drell stood before the Federation crest. "Commander Kael Ardent and Sentinels Rhys Calder and Miro Sable have been compromised by Guide Elian Voss," she announced. "They are to be captured alive. Voss is to be terminated on sight." A map flashed beside her, displaying our exact location. Someone had activated the observation room's emergency beacon. Miro checked the sealed door. "They are already outside." Heavy weapons locked into place beyond the wall. Kael pulled me behind him while Rhys prepared to attack. There was no second exit, and no time to cut through the reinforced glass. Then Orson's voice came through the door. "Elian, surrender now and I will tell you the truth Lucian hid from everyone. Your old world was never real. Your entire life was a memory the Council planted inside you." End of Part 3. Part 4. Kael raised his weapon toward the sealed door. "Do not listen to him. You cannot protect him from the truth," Orson called from outside. "Ask Elian why he remembers a book that describes people who already existed. Ask how a story from another universe knew our classified experiments." I had no answer. The reinforced wall trembled as the soldiers prepared to breach it. Rhys placed himself beside Kael while Miro studied the ceiling vents. "There is a coolant shaft above us," Miro said. "It reaches the outer maintenance ring." "Too narrow," Rhys replied. "Not for Elian." Kael understood immediately. "He goes alone." "No. I am done running while other people bleed for this body," I said. "Orson wants me alive long enough to explain something. We use that." Kael's expression hardened. "He wants you uncertain. Confusion makes a guide easier to control. Then help me remember what is real." The first charge struck the door. Metal bent inward. Miro crossed the room and held my face between his hands. His touch was unexpectedly careful. "This is real," he said. "You entered my mind and found me when no one else could. Whatever memories they gave you, that choice was yours." Rhys placed his hand on my shoulder. "You saved me while I hated you. That was real too." Kael looked at them, then at me. Possessive heat moved through our imprint before he could hide it. "And you?" I asked. He stepped close enough that his uniform brushed mine. "I am trying very hard not to make promises I may be forced to break." "Make one anyway." His hand settled at the back of my neck. "I will always fight the command." The second charge cracked the door. Kael released me and gave orders. Miro climbed into the vent and cut through the coolant barrier. Rhys ripped a power conduit from the wall. Sparks flooded the room. When the third charge detonated, the observation room went dark. I stood alone in the center. Orson entered through the smoke with 6 soldiers. Where are they? Gone. He approached me. You made a sensible choice. Show me proof. Orson removed a small glass device from his coat. A memory prism glowed inside it. This contains your identity. Come with me and you can have it. The lights flashed back on. Rhys dropped from the ceiling behind the soldiers. Miro emerged from the smoke and disarmed 2 before they could turn. Kael fired into the conduit Rhys had exposed. A wave of electricity crossed the metal floor. The soldiers collapsed. Orson grabbed me and pressed a blade beneath my ribs. Kael aimed at his head. Release him. Take one more step and the guide dies. I opened my mental gate. Orson had no sentinel abilities, but every mind carried resonance. I found his fear and pulled. His grip loosened for 1 second. Kael fired. The shot struck Orson's shoulder. I tore free as Rhys caught me. Miro pinned Orson to the floor. The prism rolled toward the broken window. I lunged and caught it before it fell into the maintenance shaft. Elian, Kael warned. It may be a trap. It probably is. I activated it anyway. Rain appeared around me. I stood on the road from my final memory. A transport waited several meters away, frozen before impact. My abandoned book lay open in the water. I walked toward it. The printed words were gone. Each page contained medical codes, resonance maps, and images of Lucien's laboratory. My peaceful apartment appeared next. Its windows looked over a city I had loved, but when I opened the front door, I found the white corridor of Project Janus. Orson had told the truth. My old life was constructed. Then someone appeared at the end of the corridor. Elian Voss. He was not a recording. His eyes followed me. What are you? I asked. The part of Lucien they could not erase, he answered. And you are the life I invented so my mind could survive. I am you. No. You became someone I never had the courage to be. He touched my chest. Memories poured into me. Lucien laughing with Kael before the experiments. Rhys shielding another subject from guards. Miro screaming while chains entered his mind. Counselor Seraphine watching from behind glass. Then I saw Orson kneeling beside Lucien's cell. Help me expose them, Orson had whispered. I can get your evidence outside. He had not been Lucien's enemy. He had been his secret ally. The memory changed again. Orson lay restrained while Seraphine placed a control device against his spine. When Elian awakens, she said, you will bring him to me. I tore myself out of the prism. Back in the observation room, Orson was smiling through the pain in his shoulder. You saw it, he said. She controls you. Yes. His hand closed around Miro's discarded rifle. Kael moved toward me, but Orson did not aim at us. He fired through the outer window. The glass exploded. Air ripped from the room. Kael caught my arm while Rhys grabbed Kael. Miro held the broken frame with one hand and Orson with the other. Orson looked at me as the vacuum pulled him toward space. Find the original Janus chamber, he shouted. Your real body is still alive inside it. Then his fingers slipped from Miro's grasp. End of Part 4. Part 5. Miro lunged after Orson, but the damaged window sealed before he could reach him. A transparent barrier formed between us and the emptiness outside. Orson's body drifted beyond it, growing smaller against the blue light of Nearus. He chose that, Kael said quietly. Miro struck the barrier. He chose the only escape Seraphine could not control. Emergency locks were closing across the engineering deck, and soldiers would reach us within minutes. The memory prism still glowed in my hand. The original Janus chamber is below the station core, I said. Lucien hid the route inside the false memory of my apartment. Rhys looked at the shattered room. Can you reach it? I closed my eyes. The map unfolded behind them. If the route still exists. Kael retrieved his weapon. Lead us. We entered the maintenance shaft before the soldiers broke through. Miro moved ahead, Rhys guarded the rear, and Kael stayed close enough that his shoulder brushed mine whenever the passage narrowed. Miro's grief burned cold. Rhys's anger pressed against my ribs. Kael felt different. Beneath his focus was a question he was afraid to ask. I waited until we reached an abandoned service platform. Say it, I told him. Kael faced me. If your original body is alive, what happens to the person standing here? I do not know. Then we destroy the chamber. That body may contain the evidence we need. I do not care about evidence if finding it erases you. Kael stepped closer. Lucian mattered to me. I remember that now. But you are not a replacement for him. You are the man who trusted me after learning I might kill him. You are the man I refused to lose. You barely know me. The bond knows you. So do I. I leaned forward and kissed him. It was brief, warm, and full of everything we had no time to say. When I pulled away, Kael's control had cracked. His eyes were dark with a promise that frightened me more than any weapon. Come back from that chamber, he whispered, and I will finish this properly. That sounded like an order. It was a plea. Rhys called from the next passage. We have company. We ran. Federation soldiers entered the platform behind us. Rhys tore a metal door from its track and threw it across the passage. Miro disabled the lights, guiding us through darkness by sensing the soldiers' intent. The route descended into sections absent from every official map. Walls changed from silver metal to white stone. Old Project Janus symbols appeared beneath layers of dust. At the final door, the prism left my hand and floated into a circular lock. The chamber opened. Rows of empty medical pods lined the walls. At the center stood one capsule filled with fluid. A man floated inside it. He had my face. No. I had his. His hair was longer, his body thinner, and silver cables entered his spine. The name beneath the capsule read Elian Voss. Original subject. Kael stopped beside me. The pain through our bond nearly drove me to my knees. He is alive, Rhys said. Miro examined the controls. Barely. His consciousness is absent. Words appeared across the glass. Transfer vessel detected. I looked down at myself. A seam of light opened across my wrist. Beneath the skin was not blood and bone, but a lattice of living silver. My body was artificial. The chamber had built it from Lucian's genetic pattern, and filled it with the identity he created. Elian was never another soul. I was a survival vessel carrying the parts of Lucian that refused to die. Kael seized my hand. You are still real. I was manufactured. So were the commands inside my mind. They did not define me. This does not define you. Rhys moved to my other side. You feel fear. You make choices. You saved us. That is real enough for me. Miro touched the glowing seam on my wrist with careful fingers. This body is yours because you live in it. Their certainty held me together. Then the capsule controls activated by themselves. A message appeared. Return consciousness to original subject? Yes or no? Below it, another warning flashed. Vessel will be erased after transfer. Kael raised his weapon toward the console. We are leaving. The chamber door slammed shut. Counselor Seraphine appeared on the screen above the capsule. You misunderstand the choice, she said. If Elian refuses the transfer, the original body dies and every memory proving our crimes dies with it. If he accepts, Lucian awakens with the evidence intact. You expect us to believe you? Rhys demanded. Seraphine smiled. No. I expect him to sacrifice himself because that is what I designed him to do. The capsule began draining. Lucian's heartbeat slowed on the monitor. Kael fired at the console, but a shield absorbed the shot. Miro searched for another control, while Rhys tried to break the capsule by force. Nothing worked. 10 seconds appeared on the screen. The choice buttons glowed before me. Kael caught my face between both hands. Do not choose them over yourself. If the evidence dies, Seraphine wins. Then we find another way. The timer reached 3. I looked at the 3 men who had risked everything for me, then placed my palm against the glass. Please forgive me. I pressed yes. End of Part 5. Part 6. The chamber tore my mind apart. Silver light climbed my arm and pulled every memory toward the capsule. My false apartment vanished first. Then the rainy road, the book, and the lonely life I had once believed was mine. Kael shouted my name. I tried to answer, but I could no longer feel my mouth. The transfer reached deeper. It took my first sight of Rhys bleeding on the floor. It took Miro's frozen forest. It reached for the moment Kael touched my face, and the kiss that had made this manufactured body feel alive. Something stopped it. Warmth struck from 3 directions. Kael's promise entered the link. You are the man I refuse to lose. Rhys followed with the memory of my hand over his heart. You saved me while I hated you. Then Miro wrapped his presence around the chains I had broken. Whatever face you wear, you are not the man who put them there. Their memories of me became anchors. The chamber pulled harder, but the imprint pulled back. I screamed as the silver light split in 2. The capsule shattered. Fluid rushed across the floor. Kael caught me as my legs failed. Across from us, the original Elian Voss fell into Rhys's arms and coughed until he could breathe. For several seconds, no one spoke. Elian looked at me. You stayed, he whispered. I touched my chest. My heart was still beating. The silver seam on my wrist had closed. How? Elian looked at the 3 sentinels surrounding me. I created Elian as a shelter. They turned him into a vessel. But none of us expected 3 permanent bonds to recognize him as an independent consciousness. Kael held me tighter. Then he is safe. For now. The words ruined our relief. Elian could barely stand, but his eyes were clear. He explained that the transfer had awakened the evidence stored in his biological mind. Every order, experiment, and execution carried out by Project Janus was there. We need the central transmission array, he said. If we broadcast the memories, Seraphine cannot erase them. The array is on the council deck, Miro replied. Every soldier on the station will be waiting. Rhys supported Elian. Then they can wait. Kael looked at Elian for the first time without a barrier between them. Grief, guilt, and an old love passed through his face. I promised I would get you out, he said. Elian gave him a tired smile. You did. You were only years late. I am sorry. They stole your memory, Kael. Do not give them the rest of your life too. Elian's gaze moved to me. Kael understood. His hand found mine. The past between them was real, but it was no longer a chain. The warmth flowing through our joined hands belonged to the choice Kael was making now. An explosion rocked the chamber. The soldiers had found the entrance. Miro opened a hidden medical passage from Elian's memories. We escaped as the outer door collapsed. Rhys carried Elian when his legs weakened. Kael stayed behind us, firing only when the soldiers came close. The passage ended beneath the council deck. Above us, thousands of voices echoed through the assembly hall. Seraphine had gathered officers and representatives to witness our execution. Perfect, Elian said. She brought us an audience. Miro almost smiled. We entered the transmission level through a service hatch. The main array stood beyond a guarded bridge. Dozens of soldiers blocked the way. Kael checked his weapon. Once we move, there is no retreat. There was never a retreat, Rhys said. I opened my mental gate and reached for all 3 sentinels. Our imprint expanded until I could feel their breathing, their strength, and the exact direction of every threat. We moved as one. Miro vanished between shadows and disabled the bridge sensors. Rhys struck the soldiers' defensive line without killing them. Kael anticipated every attack before it reached me. I absorbed the violent resonance filling the hall, and returned calm through our bond. For the first time, guiding did not feel like control. It felt like trust. We reached the array. Elian placed both hands on the console. Images from Project Janus appeared across every screen in the station. Representatives watched Seraphine order experiments, memory erasures, and secret executions. The truth was visible. Then Seraphine began to applaud. She stood on the opposite balcony, surrounded by council guards. "Beautiful," she said. "You completed the network exactly as I hoped." Lucien froze. Seraphine touched a control on her wrist. Pain exploded through the imprint. Rhys dropped first. Miro struck the wall, fighting his own body. Kael remained standing for 1 second longer before his weapon turned toward me. "What did you do?" I demanded. "The transfer activated Lucien's evidence," Seraphine said. "It also activated the command architecture hidden beneath it. Your bond gave me access to the 3 strongest Sentinels in the Federation." Kael's finger tightened on the trigger. Tears filled his eyes. "Run," he forced himself to say. I stepped closer instead. "You promised to fight." "I am losing." "Then we lose together." Seraphine laughed. "How touching." She raised her hand. Rhys and Miro rose behind me. Their eyes were empty. Their weapons locked on my heart while Kael's gun pressed against my forehead. "Now, Elian," Seraphine said. "Choose which one of them kills you first." End of Part 6. Part 7. Kael's weapon pressed harder against my forehead. Rhys and Miro waited behind me for Seraphine's command. Their bodies were motionless, but terror and resistance tore through our bond. "Choose," Seraphine repeated. I looked into Kael's eyes. "I choose all 3 of them." Then I opened every barrier in my mind. The command network rushed into me. We fell together into a white laboratory without walls. Seraphine's silver chains ran from the darkness into Kael, Rhys, and Miro. Thousands of thinner threads stretched beyond them, connecting Sentinels across the station. I seized the 3 chains closest to me. "Elian, stop," Kael said inside the link. His body outside still held the gun. "It will overwrite you." "Then help me pull." Rhys wrapped both hands around his chain. Miro did the same. Kael's fingers closed over mine. Seraphine appeared above us like a shadow. "You cannot free them," she said. "They were made to need control." "No," I answered. "They were trained to fear freedom." We pulled. The network cut through my artificial nerves. Cracks of silver light opened across my arms and chest. Each command I absorbed carried years of forced obedience. Kael refusing to abandon an injured squad. Rhys being punished for protecting another subject. Miro learning to hide his thoughts behind silence. Seraphine had called those memories weaknesses. I used them as weapons. "Kael, who decides where you aim?" "I do." His chain broke. "Rhys, who decides what you protect?" "I do." The second chain shattered. "Miro, who owns your mind?" His eyes burned blue. "No one but me." The final chain snapped. We returned to the transmission bridge. Kael threw his weapon aside before it could fire. Rhys and Miro collapsed, then rose with their own eyes restored. Seraphine's smile vanished. The broken commands remained inside me. Silver light spread toward my throat as the network tried to replace my thoughts with hers. I forgot the rainy road. I forgot the apartment. Then I forgot why Kael's face mattered. "Elian," he said. The name sounded distant. Lucien reached me from the transmission console. His weakened consciousness entered the imprint like a quiet hand. "You were the life I invented," he said. "But you became the future I could never imagine. I will not let her take that from you." He opened his memories and forced the command architecture out of me. Pain crossed his face as the silver corruption moved into his biological nervous system. "Lucien, no," I said. "You already saved me. Let me save you once." He drove the commands into the array and destroyed them with a surge of power. Every screen exploded into white light. Seraphine screamed. The controlled sentinels across the station awakened. Lucien fell. Rhys caught him before his head struck the floor. His pulse was weak, but present. Kael pulled me into his arms. "Do you remember me?" I heard fear break his voice. "You still owe me a proper kiss." His relief arrived through the bond before he kissed my forehead. Rhys gripped the back of my jacket. Never open your mind like that again. I cannot promise that. Then promise you will let us follow. Miro took my hand and pressed my palm against his chest. You will not disappear where I cannot find you. Their devotion surrounded me, fierce enough to feel like armor. The station alarms changed. Seraphine had vanished from the balcony. A warning appeared across the damaged screens. Orbital descent initiated. The station was falling toward Nearus. Kael checked the projected path. Impact in 18 minutes. The capital is directly below us. Millions would die. Lucian forced his eyes open. She is going to the resonance core. It controls navigation and every sentinel relay on the planet. Can you stop the descent from here? I asked. Not while she has the crown key. The silver seam on my wrist began glowing. Lucian looked at it and went pale. Elian is the key, he said. We left Lucian with freed officers and ran toward the core. The station shook around us. Sections of the ceiling collapsed while emergency lights counted down toward impact. At the final corridor, blast doors separated us. Kael, Rhys and Miro were trapped on the other side. I stood alone before the resonance core. Seraphine waited inside. You continue mistaking attachment for strength, she said. You continue mistaking control for loyalty. She smiled and activated the core. A pulse traveled from the station toward Nearus. On the screens, thousands of planetary sentinels stopped moving at once. Their eyes turned silver. When this station falls, Seraphine said, their resonance will collapse with it. Even if the capital survives the impact, every sentinel connected to the relay will become a weapon. I placed my hand on the core. A choice appeared inside my mind. The crown key could release every sentinel and restore the station's orbit. But it required a living consciousness to remain inside the network permanently. Kael struck the blast door from the other side. Elian, wait for us. There were 11 minutes left. I looked at the 3 men fighting to reach me, and understood that saving them meant leaving them. Seraphine extended her hand. Enter the network, she said. And Elian Voss will cease to exist. Their voices followed me even as the light swallowed everything. I closed my eyes and accepted the crown. End of Part 7. Part 8. The crown opened around me like a sky. I felt every sentinel connected to the network. Thousands of minds waited in silence, trapped behind Seraphine's final command. Their fear became mine. Their pain filled the artificial heart inside my chest until I thought it would break. Then the station began to rise. The crown obeyed me. Engines fired against the descent, pulling us away from Nearus. Across the planet, silver vanished from the sentinel's eyes. But my memories were disappearing. I released Kael's face first. Then Rhys's voice and Miro's careful hands. The network needed space, and it was making that space by erasing me. Seraphine appeared inside the light. You see now, she said. A guide exists to become useful. Identity is only waste. That is why you lost. I removed the command hidden inside every connection, and replaced it with a choice. Stay connected or leave. One by one, the sentinels chose freedom. The crown began collapsing. Outside the network, metal screamed. Kael, Rhys and Miro broke through the blast door. I could not see them, but I felt their hands strike the core. Our bond blazed back to life. Kael gave me the memory of our kiss. Rhys returned the moment I carried his pain. Miro returned the frozen forest and the first chain I broke. They rebuilt me from everything I had given them. You promised to let us follow, Rhys said through the bond. You will not disappear where I cannot find you, Miro reminded me. Kael's voice came last. Come back and let me finish that kiss. I reached for them. Seraphine seized my arm. If you leave, the station falls. Another presence entered the crown. Lucian. He connected from the transmission array, weak but steady. The crown does not need a prisoner, he said. It needs willing minds sharing the weight. The freed sentinels heard him. Hundreds volunteered. Then thousands. The burden divided across the network until no single consciousness had to remain. The station settled into a stable orbit. The planetary relays disconnected from Seraphine forever. Her image fractured. "I created this system," she screamed. "And we changed it," I answered. I pushed her out. My eyes opened inside the resonance core. Kael was holding me against his chest. Rhys had one hand pressed over my heart while Miro gripped my wrist, searching for a pulse. "He is back," Miro whispered. Kael lowered his forehead to mine. "Say something. You are all difficult to escape." Rhys laughed once, a broken sound filled with relief. Miro closed his eyes and pressed my hand against his cheek. Seraphine moved behind them. She held a blade and aimed for the seam in my back. I felt her intent through the last trace of the crown. "Miro." He turned before she struck. He caught her wrist and forced the blade away. Rhys pinned her to the floor while Kael shielded me. Federation officers entered the core. This time, their weapons pointed at Seraphine. The evidence Lucian broadcast had reached every colony. The Council could no longer hide Project Janus. Seraphine stared at me as restraints locked around her wrists. "They will fear you," she said. "They will call you a monster like they called Lucian." I looked at the Sentinels beside me. "Then they will have to say it from a distance." Rhys smiled. Miro almost did. Kael did not bother hiding his pride. 3 months later, Project Janus was dismantled. Its surviving subjects received treatment, and every force bond was dissolved. The new Sentinel Council required consent from both sides of any guiding link. Lucian became director of the recovery program. He complained that freedom involved too much paperwork, but I often found him smiling in his office. He and Kael rebuilt their friendship without trying to recreate the love stolen from them. As for me, the Federation offered protection, money, and a residence anywhere on Nearus. Kael rejected the residence before I could answer. "He lives with us," he said. "Do I?" Rhys carried my bags into their home. Apparently. Miro changed the security system, so only the 4 of us could enter. "You attract assassination attempts. This is practical." Of course it is. Living with 3 Sentinels was not peaceful. Rhys argued with Kael over training schedules. Miro appeared silently whenever anyone stood too close to me. Kael tried to pretend he was the reasonable one, while issuing rules no one followed. Yet every night, our bonds settled into warmth. No one commanded. No one obeyed. We chose one another. On the first evening without an emergency alarm, Kael found me on the balcony overlooking Nearus. "You came back," he said. "I promised." "No. You promised nothing." That terrified me. He touched my face and gave me enough time to move away. I did not. Kael kissed me slowly, finishing what we had begun beneath the station. Rhys joined us afterward, wrapping an arm around my waist and warning Kael not to keep me to himself. Miro took my hand, his quiet smile saying more than words. Once, I had believed I woke inside a story where everyone wanted me dead. I was wrong. I had awakened inside a life where the strongest Sentinels in the galaxy would tear apart every cage, command and destiny before letting me go. This time, I did not want to leave. End of Part 8. And that is the end of Elian's unforgettable journey with Kael, Rhys, and Miro. But now I want to hear from you. Which Sentinel captured your heart, and which moment surprised you the most? Share your answer in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel, so you never miss our next BL story. Your support helps us create even more emotional, mysterious, and romantic adventures. Thank you for watching until the end. Take care, and I will see you in the next story.